Welcome to Amateur Radio with W8CPT. I'm Cpt Don, and I'm going to talk to you today about the firmware that I put on my TYT UV390 Plus GPS HT, the one you see me working the satellites with the Arrow 2 antenna. I had a lot of questions about that, and I wanted to explain what that firmware is. So basically, you are going to purchase either the Retevis RT3S, the UV390 5-watt version with GPS, or the 10-watt, the plus version, 10 watts with GPS. Make sure you order it with GPS. If you don't, you have to change your GPS coordinates every time you change locations in the radio options. The other radio is the OPENGD77. That one will take the firmware too, and OPENGD77 firmware. It doesn't come with GPS, so you're gonna have to enter your coordinates anytime you change location. So it's not that big of a deal to do. It's kind of, you got to look at the instructions for OPENGD77 firmware and follow it. The buttons you hit to type in the coordinates is kind of difficult to figure out, but once you figure it out, it's easy. There are instructions. So anyway, so that's the thing. If you get the Retevis RT3S or the UV390 or 390 Plus, make sure you order it with the GPS, and it automatically finds your location after a little bit. I did notice that the TYT UV390 finds the location a lot quicker than the Retevis RT3S. I'm going to show you the Retevis RT3S here to show you how this firmware works. So basically what you're doing is you're getting one of these radios, these HDs, and you're changing the whole radio. So the way it is, if you bought it, take it out of the package, turn it on, the firmware that's on there is going to be what came from the company, and it's going to be totally different than what it ends up being once you put this OPENGD77 firmware on it. So the only thing I got to add there too is I'm going to put a link to the OPENGD77 forums. There is a notice about the UV390 Plus, the radio I'm using mostly when I am working the satellites. The 10-watt version, the screen isn't as bright as it should be. There's some kind of a glitch in the firmware that they haven't figured out yet that makes the screen not as bright as it should be. I'm not sure if the one I have has that problem. I know it's really hard to see in the sunlight. If I have the problem, it's not that bad and I wouldn't worry about it. But they're saying it's the new batch of UV390 Pluses that's having the problem. So if it's dimmer than what mine is, you're probably not going to want it. But that's a chance you're going to have to take. If you want the 10 watts, the only way to get 10 watts instead of 5 is to get that UV390 Plus with GPS. And you could take the chance, but like I said, I don't know how bad the screen dimness is. So use your discretion. 5 watts does not make that much of a difference. This is the Retevis RT3S 5 watts. Made lots of QSOs on there, no problem with 5 watts. I don't think you really need the 10 watts. So that's your choice there. The cheapest radio would be the Bofang DM1701. It's like about $80, and these end up being DMR radios too. So once you put this firmware on there, you can use them as DMR radio too. So if you're into that or you want to get into that, you have that option too. I pretty much just use mine for satellites. You can also put it on the TYT MD9600 mobile radio. So there's that option, and then there's the Retevis mobile radio that looks exactly the same as that TYT MD9600, and yeah, you could put it on them two radios too. I have it on mine. I use it with my vertical. I don't like working the satellites with the vertical because I only get middle part of the pass, and the receive's so off and on that I really, enjoy pointing that arrow antenna at it. And then I could turn that arrow antenna for the polarization too. So anyway, with that said, I will switch the camera around here and show you. I want to get my setup. I guess I could just set it up right here. And so actually I don't need to flip the camera. Oh yeah. Okay, so here is the Retevis RT3S. So I've already got the firmware on it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. I got a little custom screen for Who Cares Amateur Radio Group. It does the Morse code. I programmed that into to do my call sign, and then you just go right to the main page. So it's like any other radio. You got your squelch and you got your channels. So I got my DMR channels, my local repeaters. So yeah, you can use it. You could put a regular antenna, rubber duck antenna on it and use it like a regular one. You're going to want to get the adapter for BNC. This one's that style. There's other styles that screw right on that are black that are better. I have it on my 390. I'm not sure where my 390 is at the moment. But anyway, so there we go. That's the color scheme I use on my 390. That's easier to see in the daylight. So let's say you get the one that has the GPS version. You go into the menu and you click on GPS, and it's telling you it's acquiring satellites. So you have to wait for them satellites to lock on, and then it'll have your location, and then you're good to go for working a satellite. I will tell you this, the Retevis RT3S seems to be really slow with its GPS. I've had this radio on for about 2 minutes now, and it's only got one. My UV390 would have almost a lock by now. So I'm recommending the UV390 5-watt version with GPS if you don't want any issues and you want a good GPS. If you want to take the chance with that screen brightness thing, you could try the 10-watt version, the Plus, the UV390 Plus. But anyway, so that's the GPS. If you don't have GPS, if you happen to get one, if you decide you want to buy one without GPS, it's not that big of a deal. You just won't have this GPS thing here. You're going to have to go to radio info, and you're going to have to scroll until you get to the coordinates, and then you got to enter the coordinates in for your area. As long as you use it at the same location, you don't have to change that. If you go to a different location, then you're going to have to change that, because it tracks, this program tracks the Doppler, so you don't have to change turn any knobs when you're working the satellites. So we'll get into that now. So now you're on the main screen and you want to look at the satellites. So you go to the satellite menu, it predicts where they're at, and it tells you the next one coming by is PO 101 at 22 degrees. So click the green button, and it shows you it's 1 hour and 53 minutes away from when it's going to rise. The maximum's 22 degrees. That red dot is where it's going to rise. So it's going to rise in the southeast, and then it's going to set in the north. So that dot moves as the satellite's going over you, and you can use that to point your antenna. So that's pretty neat. On this screen, you can actually key up, and it keys up, and you can talk, and you'll be able to hear. You do have to turn the knob, the channel knob, and open up the squelch. So that way you can hear faint stations when you're working satellites. Always open the squelch when you're working an FM bird. So there's that screen. So now there's this screen here. Now this will show you, if you watch, that 90218 just switched 90219. It's actually following the Doppler right now, even though this satellite's an hour away or whatever it was. So that's pretty neat. You do not have to turn any knobs. It automatically follows the Doppler. So when you're working a satellite, all you got to do is you got to be on this screen, and you got to point your antenna at the satellite, and then when you hear somebody call out, you just key up and answer them. The whole pass, it follows the Doppler for you. So that's the gist of it. It's got all these satellites. So here's the first ISS today. It's only 2 degrees. AO91, Lilithsat, AO27, SO50. And you can actually, once you get, good at this firmware, you can actually add satellites that aren't on here. I added SO121 on. Don't know if I have it on this one or not. I might now because I updated the caps. Let me see. Is that? Yeah, it's on here. SO121. But I added quite a few of these. I added like 2 or 3 other ones to here. I guess I could make a list and share that of which ones are active. That would probably be helpful for everybody. But yeah, this ISS passed 38 degrees. See, it's rising in the west and it's setting in the northeast. And all you got to do is follow that dot with your antenna, hear the satellite, key up, and make your contacts. So that's how this software works. The only thing else you have to do is you have to, when you download the firmware, and I'll probably do a video on that. There is one on the website, on the forums. If you go into the OPENGD77 forums, that I'm going to link in the comments, there's an installation forum section that has a video of how to put it on the radio. I mean, I followed it and it worked. I may do a simpler version. I don't back up the original firmware on the radio because I don't care about putting it back. So I skip that part and go right to putting the firmware on the radio. And then you download the OPENGD77 CPS. So if you've ever used like Chirp, it's the OPENGD77 of the radio programming software. So you open that up, and this is the screen you're going to get. I'll show you real quick. Like I said, it is a DMR radio, so you got DMR ID and call sign. Boot screen is where you change and make those cool little changes that I did with the Who Cares Amateur Radio Group logo. Then you got the band limits, DTMF settings, APRS, contacts for DMR, talk group list for DMR, zones for DMR, and then you got your regular channels, which are both DMR and analog. So I'll click on that and show you. I'm not sure if I have any in here. Oh yeah, I've got all my channels in here. So like if you're gonna edit a channel, you hit a channel and it'll pop up and you can edit it. If you want to add a channel, you hit that plus button and it'll jump to the next open space and you can add a channel. So there's that. It's a regular HD that you can put repeaters in and everything too if you want. I personally have them all in here, but I really don't use the radio for anything but satellites. So with that said, now you get a cable with the radio. So I can't really show you me hooking it up, but because I don't have enough hands right now. But let me pause the video and I'll hook it up and then I'll show you. Alright, so it's a USB cable that you hook up to the computer and then you hook it up to the side of the radio. Just like programming any other HT. And now we're going to go to the firmware. The radio's hooked up, so you're going to have to do this. I do it every day before I work satellites, just because I want to make sure the KEPs are updated. Now, if you don't know what the KEPs are, because some people might not, basically it's the path of the satellite. So updating the KEPs makes it so what it's showing with that red dot is as accurate as it can be for the day. So that's why I update it every time. The ISS, you definitely need to update it at least every 2 days because it could change its course to get around space junk. The other satellites, they're only affected by the pull of gravity, so you could probably get away with only updating the KEPs like every week for the other satellites. But the ISS, you definitely I would do it every time before you worked it. So anyway, you hit extra and you hit this OPENGD77 support. And it's got read cold plug, write cold plug. It's got all these other things you can mess around with. Lots of stuff you can do with this firmware. But the only one we're concerned about here is this install satellite caps. So every day before you're going to work the satellites, hook up your radio, click on that, and you see it just upload complete. It updated the caps for all the satellites I have on here. So we're just going to hit OK and clear it. And to show you what that looks like on the radio when that's going on, not that it's that big of a deal, but I'll do it again. And it wrote all the caps, so all your satellites will be accurate. So that basically, that's the gist of it. You put this firmware on your radio, you put this software on your computer so you can update the caps, and hook up your antenna, find the satellite you want to work. When it rises, follow it and key up and make your QSOs. Some other cool things. Oh, you're gonna want to make sure. I'll probably go over this when I do the video of how to download it, but you're gonna make sure you select the right radio under radio type. But another cool thing you can do here is you go down to theme editor under the same extras menu, and you can change all the colors in the radio. So, you know, if you're having a hard time seeing it in the daylight and you want the light background with the dark letters like I have, you just go in here and change all these around, and it'll work great. Now, if you want to pause the video and take a screenshot of this, this is my settings for working it in the daylight, and I use it at night too. But yeah, if you put it on all these colors, you can tell that one red color on the bottom left is red. The menu highlight kind of looks like it's an orange. I make that one, it's actually red, it's just not seeing it very well. And same thing with the two over here on the right column, those two that kind of look orangish pink, those are both red too. So yeah, if you want to take a screenshot of that, that'll give you my setup here. It'll look like that for the main part. The menu will look like that, and when you scroll through the menu, that's what it'll look like. And then on the satellite, you're gonna get that. Once you select the satellite, you're gonna get the black background with the red dot for where the satellite is traveling. So that's about it. Like I said, if your way around computers and radios and HTs, and you've done stuff like this before, then me just sharing the link for the OPENGD77 forums that has the instructions, you should be able to figure it out. Like I said, there's a video on there too under installation in the forums, and you could follow that. And that's what I did originally, and I got it. You know, I beat my head against the wall a few times, but I ended up figuring it out. And then the next radio got easier. I am gonna make my own version of installing it. I'm gonna skip backing up the original firmware on the radio because I didn't do that, and I don't want to do that. You might want to though, so you might want to follow that video. And I'll show you how to put it on a Retevis RT3S, which is going to be the same for the UV390 and the OPENGD DM1701. Look for that video in the next week sometime. I'm pretty busy, but I'm going to find time to make that video. But I just wanted to show you how that HT works, because you see me working the satellites. All I'm doing is keying up and talking. I'm not changing channels. I'm not doing nothing. And I'm pointing the antenna at the satellite, and that's it. And that's how I'm doing it with this OPENGD77 firmware. It's really cool. So if you have any questions, go ahead and comment here. If I can answer them on YouTube, I will. If you want to get more involved and you need some more help because you're having problems, you can email me through my QRZ page, or if you go on my QRZ page and you can't see the email because you're not a member, there is a link to my website. It's Cpt Don .com, and you can actually email me through that website. The link is on QRZ, so you can find it on there if you can't get my email from QRZ. So there you have it. That is the OPENGD77 firmware that I have on my HT. That's how it works. And like I said, in the next week or so, I'll do a how-to video on how to actually put it on your HT. Thanks for watching Amateur Radio with W8CPT. Captain Don here. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you on the birds soon. 73.